My name is Orode Uduaghan, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I am also a philanthropist. So I run a few businesses. I run a food business called Ultras Restaurant and Ultras Fast Food, and I also run a rental company called Geeks Rental. But my major work is social entrepreneurship, which I've done for about 11 years with the Pink Pearl Foundation. So I do a bit of business and more social entrepreneur and charity work. To be honest, I didn't start out on entrepreneurship. Like, all I wanted to do was community service, social entrepreneurship, and more of NGO work. And then I started that 11 years ago, just dealing with breast and cervical cancer, women empowerment, children development, etc. But along the line, my mom started the food business as well about 11 years ago, and I thought it would be wise to almost take over, expand it, and then make it sustainable, which is what I did. So I took it over when it was 5 years, and I brought it to Lagos, expanded it, rebranded it, and then literally just created a new brand that is sustainable. And that's how I got into entrepreneurship in a nutshell, almost like an inherited thing. Okay, so about 11 years ago, I think it was 2007, I was still in my third year of uni at the time, and I had lost somebody to breast cancer, and I was doing a bit of research on breast cancer in Nigeria, and I found out that it was really low awareness at the time. I think then it was just Betty Rabor and a few other people that were actually, advocating for breast cancer. So I thought that it would be interesting to come back and do something that would create awareness, but more so just something that would just raise money. The initial plan was just to do something, raise some money, give it to a hospital, and pretty much call it a day. So I came back to Nigeria for the holidays that year, and then I partnered with ROMD AY at the time. It was still like a quiet clique, and we created this concept where we did a concert for a cause, and then we were able to raise a lot of money. We raised about 23 million naira at the time from ticket sales and all of that, and we gave it to, so we bought a mammogram machine, Nigeria's first digital mammogram then, and we gave it to the hospital, and that was supposed to have been it. But then the team and I realized that a lot of people didn't even know anything about cancer, and these were not like illiterates, these were actually like learned people, mostly young people. So we thought it would be wise to create platforms where people can come and get awareness, knowledge, but also costs for treatment at the time was really expensive. So we're also able to create a platform where you could get money to run your treatments, money to do your surgery, etc., etc. And that was supposed to be it as well. So we're just going to run it for 1 year. But then the more we got into it, the more we realized that a lot of people were actually dying, across the country. People were actually suffering out of either silence or finances or etc. And we said, okay, instead of just sussing out money from people, let us be able to train them to be able to make their money for themselves. And so we created a women empowerment school, which is another aspect of the social entrepreneurship, where we partnered with a lot of people to train a lot of women. So over the years, this started in 2013, over the years we've been able to train at least 300 to 400 women in different skill sets. So from hair making to makeup to tailoring and all that. But what was more beautiful about it was at the end of the 6 months training, we would give them like a starter pack. So for example, if you're in the tailoring class, you would get a starter pack of like a sewing machine, embroidery machine, basic stuff that you need to start your business. And then we also decided to form like a cooperative for them, so they are not just getting things handed on to them on almost like a platter of gold. They have to be able to source for themselves. So monthly, when they make money, they bring it back to the cooperative. So that way we're able to monitor their growth and see how far they've come. And to be honest, I feel like that was the best decision in all my social entrepreneurship career that I made, because it ended up having a ripple effect. So I think the second year into it, we found that a lot of women who had trained in the first year started training other people. So one woman, especially at that time, had trained about 39 other people, yes, under her belt. Her entire family was into the business. So they were beginning to make money, they were empowered, they were beginning to be able to, create things for themselves that would sustain themselves. And so we did that, but we also realized that there was a lack in the child area. So we thought that, okay, it's one thing to train women, it's one thing to empower them, it's one thing to provide for health and all that. How about kids, people who don't have access to education? So we started an education trust fund where we would, each year, we would go around, pick one person that we train from secondary school or whatever point they are at the time to university. Successfully, we've done two. We've been able to train at least two people. One went all the way to do his master's in Essex, which was kind of interesting for us. So we're hoping to do more of that. So that has been a bit of my entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship journey in a nutshell. So social entrepreneurship is one of like the most difficult fields because I guess when I started it was more difficult because then Nigerians were not really open to things like NGO work. There was a lot of skepticism. You know, people were really skeptical when you come and you say you were in an NGO. People were like, okay, where are you taking money to and all that. But for me, what I did was I gave people value for their money. So the very first thing I did was a concert. And in that concert, I was able to get sponsorship. So I didn't just go around saying, okay, hey, I'm a social entrepreneur. This is what I want to do. Give me some money. I was able to raise money from something that was almost like a business to fund what I was doing, and that's what we've been doing on the long run. So most of the things that I do in the business world, a percentage of it goes back to my social entrepreneurship work that I do, just because it's really difficult going around knocking on doors and asking organizations for money. So you create a small business that is sustainable, that actually brings some sort of profit and put it back. That's the best way to sustain it. Or whatever you were doing, say for instance, you want to, I don't know, sort out girls with sanitary towel, for instance, you create something that you can sell, you know, create a product that you can sell so that part of the percentage of that profit goes back into the charity work that you're actually doing. So I think that's the way to do it. But initial capital, maybe in some people go to organizations for funding. I didn't do that because they weren't really open to that at the time. But now I think there are a lot of organizations that are actually open to funding, especially when you want to do social entrepreneurship. So just put your paperwork together, have a good, you know, arguments or whatnot, and then I guess you can approach people like the Ford Foundation, MTN, GTB, Zenith. A lot of these guys are actually looking to fund most of these social entrepreneurs. I think for me, the most thing I face as a challenge is infrastructure. It's really difficult to run anything in this country because you have to deal with a lot of infrastructure challenges, power, water, security, all sorts of things, staffing. Initially, it was really hard to get the right people because you think on a different level from a lot of people. So it was difficult. I lost a lot of clients, a lot of staff and whatnot. But what I did over the years, thankfully, was to be able to train them, keep them on a sustained trained platform so they match up to your level of thinking in a way. But I think my biggest challenge is infrastructure. So having to run a business on, you're providing your own electricity, you're providing your own security, you're providing your own water. You're literally providing everything for yourself, and then you still have to pay those taxes. So it's been really difficult running a business on that little or no infrastructure. It really has been difficult. Yes, I have actually. I think it was my first year in business, because my first year in business, I went off, I don't know why I did that, but I thought it was really silly. I actually went off to school. I went to a later school for a year and I left the business. So in my absence, a lot of things went wrong because I hadn't stayed enough to build the business to a certain way where I could just leave it. So I did feel at that point, actually literally almost shut it down because we were running at a loss. A lot of things were going wrong staff. I had a lot of back end damage, you know, your staff just stealing off, you know, whatever it is that you were making. So that was a really difficult time for my business. And at the same time, I was dealing with, you know, Lagos State's infrastructure issues, taxes, all sorts of things. So it was hard at first because I guess I started on a big scale without really understanding the market at first. So my advice would be, you know, start and grow, not create and then try to shrink. That was my mistake. I actually created a huge platform and then I was trying to shrink it into this little thing, but it didn't work. It actually ended up as a failure. But thankfully we went back, restructured, went back to the drawing board and, you know, started it all over again. Started from a very small unit and then grew the business into what it is today. Wow, there's a lot of mental things that go on with you when you run at a huge failure, especially in business, especially if you're an entrepreneur, because your business is like your baby, something that you don't sleep over, you overthink. So I would say if you want to stay in that same line of business, look at what you did that you shouldn't do again. So you have to do things differently. The way you did it before that didn't work, go back to the drawing board and don't do those things. Or if you did it before and it didn't work, go back to the drawing board and maybe do it a little bit better. But so you have to look at the things that you did or didn't do that made you fail in the first place and then change the dynamics. That's the only way to bounce back. Or if you don't want to do that business and you want to go into something different, you have to really understand the market you're going into properly. A lot of entrepreneurs jump into markets without actually understanding it first, without even understanding what is required of them in that particular line of business, which ends up being a problem, or without really seeing the end goal. So some people are into entrepreneurship just because of the profit they can make in the today, without thinking, okay, what do I want this business to be 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, 50 years down the line? What's going to be the sustainable plan for the business? So bouncing back really is just changing the dynamics, changing the perspective of exactly what it is that you're doing. That's like a very tough one. I don't think, for me, I really don't know. I've hurt myself in so many ways because I refuse to just quit a thing. But I guess when you try something over and over and over and over and over and over and over again and it doesn't work, there is just that nudge that you'd get to know that, okay, this isn't right for me. If people don't tell you, you would know yourself. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs really don't know when to quit because they will hold on to that thing. But if it isn't working, and if you've tried everything, if you tried the different dynamics, you've tried this, you've tried that, and it's still not working, then maybe you should let it go and try something else. Yeah. First thing first is, a lot of people always ask or say, oh yeah, you had the opportunity, that's why it was easy for you, etc., etc. But the truth is, and I say to people, yeah, one of my business I inherited, the other I started from zero. I used what I had in my house. In my rental company, for example, I had some plates just lying around and I thought, we're just lying around, how about, and people started asking me, oh, do you have plates, do you have this? And I figured, instead of me giving you this thing for free, I would rent it to you. I would give it to you for a fee. So my first advice will be, look at what you have in your immediate environment and start off from there. You don't really have to have the largest capital in the world to start off a business or start off anything at all. Start from what you have and build it with capacity into what you want it to become. That's like my first advice. Because a lot of questions I get from a lot of people is, oh yeah, but I don't have this, I don't have 10 million, so I can't get started. You really don't need that. You start from what you have and grow the business into what you want it to be. Secondly, keep doing it. Like, it's taken me almost 4 years to break even in one of my businesses. I would have easily just packed it up and called it a day, but I kept going because I knew where I wanted to be and I knew that this thing was possible. I just kept changing dynamics, seeing what I did wrong, not do it again, putting in new strategies to just make sure that it works. And finally, it started working. So just keep at it, keep doing it, keep pushing and set a goal. A lot of people don't do that. Set a long-term goal. I know things will change, the world will evolve, you would evolve with it, change your strategy, don't be rigid, but set a long-term goal, because one of the problems we have in this country is longevity, which is a huge issue, especially in businesses. Do you know the business dies with it, which is, it's not proper, it's not right. So try and create a business that you're setting a long-term goal and create a business that is not you. I'm extremely separated from my business. Like, some people see the things that I do and they don't even know I'm the one involved in it, because I've tried to build it in a way that I want it sustained and it has to be outside of me, because I'm not going to be there forever. So I've built a team, I've built a structure that whether I'm there or not, the business still runs regardless. So do that, put that at the back of your mind, that you and your business are not the same thing. Your business is a separate entity and you are separate. So yeah, that would help you run a sustainable business, putting proper structures in place.